From the Bent Pixel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting, a free weekly podcast. In fact, these days, a multi-weekly podcast. I think this is our second episode this week, covering the world of mixed martial arts and far beyond, with myself, Richard Hunter, and this guy.
I'm Frank Mayer.
He just won a fight in Bellator. He's a two-time UFC heavyweight champion who just defeated Roy Nelson for the second time. I figure if one of us can win a fight, then we ought to lead with that, right? That's you got us off the schneid, as they say, as a podcast last weekend, which I very much appreciate. Appreciate you doing the heavy lifting.
I was more happy that I could show you how that kick works.
Yeah. All right. Well, phoneboothfighting.com is the website. That's where you find the Amazon banner. Click through that to shop on Amazon. That's how you support us at no additional cost to you. More on that kind of stuff later, but we've got guests in studio. Frank, introduce them.
Well, we have Mel Spicer, GCS. That's who did my conditioning and does all the training for the kids. That's why you've seen that I didn't even have to sit down. Well, it wasn't a detriment as it could have been. We could talk about it later. You've seen that even after the fight was over. That was actually Jennifer was most impressed with. She goes, I was listening to your post-fight interviews. And, most of the time I'm huffing and puffing, and this time nothing. So, yeah. And then Carl Prince, Princey, the overall coach, head coach for the MMA program.
Well, congratulations to the whole team, Mir. Well done, fellas. Look great. I told Frank after the fight, I said, it was obviously great to see you get a win however you were going to get it. But to see a game plan executed like that and to see it come together, it was really kind of like watching two victories. It was a win, but then it was also just a really well-crafted plan that worked out. I know we talked about that on the last podcast quite a bit, but congratulations to the coaches.
Yeah, I was just blessed that when I got here, Frank was already in the best condition I've ever seen him. So half the approach with Frank is his approach, and I think mentally, if you can get Frank in the right state, he's capable of literally anything, like he's proven in the past. And when we got here, we were probably 6 weeks ahead of any schedule that I could have put together. So it was a great start to camp.
Yeah, it's really impressive, Mel, because Frank is sort of like having shared a hotel room with him. It's kind of like waking up a bear. Like when you have somewhere to go, he needs about a 30-minute head start. So you let him know, okay, in 30 minutes we actually have to be on our feet, and then there's a whole lot of there's some kind of trial runs. You kind of almost get up a couple of times, and then all that. So it's very impressive what you did there.
Thank you.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the camp? Because this is the first time you worked with Frank for a camp, right?
Yes.
Go ahead and lean on into that microphone there.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
I was very pleased with the outcome. We, as I told Frank, we're just getting started. We haven't even scratched the surface to where we're going with his overall conditioning program. Meeting him when we did an assessment early on, and I just recognized that he had a lot of injuries that we had to work around, and we couldn't get to where we wanted to get before we were able to actually address those issues first. So my concentration was his explosion and his mobility through his hips especially. So watching him move around and bounce like I always say, float like a butterfly, look like Ali, and I'm moving around a little bit, so I was really pleased with that. But the overall outcome I was really happy with.
Yeah, Frank was singing your praises this whole time. Really, I mean, I heard quite a bit about it. So,
well, and just like I said, it was easy to buy into. I always have a hard time doing with coaches that just, do it because I told you to, and because I always want to ask people like, well, how do you know how to do it?
Yeah.
Well, because the guy told me to do it. I'm like, doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way that you were shown. Can you explain, the science behind why you're doing what you're doing? And Mel always explained everything. I mean, we're going through it. I mean, it made it easy for me to, to even when he would do things like add, an extra set or an extra, chaos, be prepared for anything at any time. It made sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't struggle with it. I just addressed it as like, okay, it's a fight. This is what I have to do, and move forward,
Well, it was very impressive. And getting back to Frank's opening joke there, Princey, he's absolutely right, because when we got done, when he got done with the fight and we were on the phone together, I said, the whole time he was throwing that inside leg kick, I kept thinking about how he was telling me that's what he wanted me to do. And I was like, well, that's what it looks like when somebody actually does it. Yeah.
Well, I've also been doing it for a long time. But, yeah, that was the kick I was trying to show you, the inside kick. If a person really wants to sit down on their punches, it's hard to punch when you knock their legs out from under them,
Yeah.
They have to make, they have to use a lot more fakes and feints and make you fire that shot off. And, you can see that, a guy as experienced as Roy had a hard time with it. I was thinking that maybe Darnell would have had an issue with it.
We initially spoke about like a front leg side kick to the thigh, but we thought that putting Frank's head along that line would perhaps cause more issues than it perhaps solves. So going with the inside leg kick, that definitely worked to our good. I actually received a message from a friend of mine at home, because my background was in soccer. I was a soccer coach a long time before I was an MMA coach, and my friend just messaged me, said, trust a soccer coach from Manchester to come to Las Vegas to teach Frank Mir to kick Roy Nelson all over the cage. So.
Yeah, it was funny too, because when I talked to Frank on the phone after the fight, I asked him, because there was that takedown right at the end of the fight, and it didn't look like anything really came of it, but I couldn't really tell. I just said, hey, did he land any, did he get a good shot in or anything like that? And Frank's like, no. He goes, my nose is just bloody, but other than that, I'm good. And I was like, yeah, me too. I just was able to start wearing my glasses like 2 days ago because my nose was busted up. I was
this morning I took a shower and I'm still got blood clots coming out.
Yeah, we're like girls whose periods sync up, and you spend enough time around each other. Yeah, that's fun. All right.
So was he your sparring partner as well?
Yeah.
Oh, I was somebody's spar. I was somebody's punching bag. Is what I was.
They have a program now that's very popular. It's called Wimp to Warrior. So and what they do is they'll take you for 5 months, and you train at 7 a.m. 5 days a week, and each day is a different. They'll do like a grappling day, a weightlifting day, striking day, and then they prepare you. And then within that group of 30 to 50 people that have signed up, who's ever left standing at the end of the 5 months, they'll try to appropriately match you. We don't do really well with our matchups. Basically, both the guys he's fought so far still don't equal to his age.
Yeah, I'm 49, and there just weren't any other 160-pound 49-year-olds to choose from.
So his very first fight, he gets a guy who's 6'7". Ooh. I'm like, I even asked him afterwards, it was Jessica Jordan. I was like, did you piss her off? Did you say something? A 20-year-old guy. Yeah. And then this last fight, Darnell, who I even watched him, man, I after the fight, I even told him, I said, if you're interested in doing this for real, you're talented. You know what I mean? You could tell that he takes coaching well. He kept composed under fire because, he went out there and he fought Richard and he hurt him with a punch. And Richard is far more experienced at ground fighting than he is, and he had experienced that during the camp. And even then, didn't lose his mind. Jump in on top of him. He's like, no, waved him up. I was blown away with his composure. He looked like a good athlete, and he was. But that's not real. That's more of a birthright. Right. Mental composure. That's you. You owned your own mind. So I was impressed with him. So he fights a guy who actually had probably one of the best 1-2s I've ever seen out of an amateur. He threw jab cross. I'm like, dude, that's like professional level 1-2. You know what I mean? Wow. And then bouncing around and stuff. I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, shit. So we tried. I was like, well, maybe we can kick his leg out. So we went over a couple techniques to work on. But obviously, he, Richard doesn't have the experience to sit there with a guy throwing punches at him. Like, okay, when the punch comes, right, I'll keep composed and kick his leg out.
I'll put it this way: I'm already on AARP's junk mail list. I can't sign up yet, but they're starting to send me the stuff already. No,
But Richard got up. That's the part I told him that impressed me. When he got hit the opening bell, the guy hit him and dropped him.
Oh.
Richard looked around, got his composure, and got back up and went after him, and then went forward even. Yeah. I was like, see, now that's the difference between you and other people. Right. 99% of the world would have taken that shot and go, okay, I'm good. Fuck this. Yeah. If they could have even got themselves to the point to fight. Yeah.
When someone offers you a nice, soft place to land, a lot of people will take it because it's like the easy way out.
Yeah.
I've gotten submissions because people just don't want to get hurt no more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Guys are like, oh, okay, here's my arm. I'm like, just please. Here's a prime example. And it shows that people at all moments can have mental breakdowns. I firmly believe that Cain Velasquez purposely got choked out in his fight against Fabricio Verdum because he wasn't prepared for the altitude. And the expression that they always say, conditioning makes, fatigue makes coward out of the strongest of men. Yeah. Now, that's a guy who's never used to being tired. In fact, if anything, cardio is one of his weapons.
True.
Cain Velasquez is the most conditioned heavyweight I've ever seen in my life, right? But not on that day he wasn't. You know what I mean? So he's fighting at 10,000 feet, right? Got there 7 days before the fight. Verdum was there for 8 weeks? Mm-hmm. And then trained before that, was up in somewhere else in elevation, right? All of a sudden, he's getting pieced up, jabs, bop, bop. His face is busted up. He looks like he's about to get knocked out by Verdum. So you know what? He made a conscious decision. I'll give him my neck. He shot a really poor double and got choked. He chose a way out.
Yeah.
I'm not faulting. Cain Velasquez is an extremely tough guy. 99 out of 100 times, like anybody else, he would quit less often than almost anybody else I know. But still on that day, he took the out, And so you had a situation where it was presented to you, and you didn't take the out.
The funny thing, Princey just mentioned the soft place to land. The one moral victory I guess there's a few, but the actually kind of a sense of accomplishment I had coming out of it was that he didn't want to go to the ground. So, and he told me, we're friends, the guy that I fought. Like, he's a great guy, and we're buddies. So he told me after the fight, he said the coach told me don't even go to the ground. He said if it goes to the ground, you stay standing up, right? So, and I thought, well, I can take that as a sense of accomplishment because that meant that I had an aspect of a game that he really, shut down one of his options. But when I went to the ground, it was very exciting. I've only done this now twice, so I'm not calm all the time in there and everything. But I do remember being on the mat and thinking, okay, well, at least now we're going to the ground. And I remember hearing the referee saying to him, are you going to the ground? And he said no. And the referee said, all right, stand up. And I remember thinking to myself, son of a bitch. Like, I just got comfortable down. Damn it. All right, hang on.
I'm surprised with your comedic mind. You'd be like, how come he gets a choice and I don't? You don't want to go to the ground. I don't want to stand up.
Give me a minute. Hang on. I can't pop up quite like I used to. All right.
Yeah. We'll fix that, though, buddy. We need to bring him around.
You know what? I appreciate that, Mel. Thank you.
Mel gave me a text about a week ago, which was really helpful because I finally got Mrs. Mir completely bought in, is that we eat vegetarian, 5-6 days out of the week.
Vegetarian.
Yeah, what's that?
Vegetarian, that's what you are.
Yeah, vegetarian.
Yeah.
I still will eat fish and sushi and stuff, and eggs. So I don't know if that counts as a pescatarian, right?
No, that's eating dairy. So you are a pescatarian because that's
I
still
avoid dairy. I don't eat dairy at all.
Yeah.
Dairy, I hate dairy. Like yesterday, I had a pizza, and it's the first time I've had dairy in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And my hands today, I could feel it. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, so Mel goes, "Hey, Game Changer, you got to go watch it." And I watched it. Holy shit! And that's why I told you. He's been a vegan for how many years now?
7, probably something like that.
So you know all about it.
Yeah, I do.
Pretty much everybody around me. This guy, everybody is already.
Right.
You and I were the last holdouts.
The last holdouts, man.
Yeah. That documentary, by the way,
I'm no longer a holdout. I'm all in.
James Wilkes is going to
come on. The blood test sold me.
Yeah. James Wilkes, who is the former UFC fighter, that basically it's his journey to veganism in this documentary. It's on Netflix. It's called Game Changers. Really incredible. Frank and I both watched it. James Wilkes is going to come on the podcast with us. So
awesome.
Next few weeks he'll be on with us. But yeah,
if you want to make sure you know what that is, you can come pick his brain.
Yeah, it is incredible. And when you see some of the guys in that documentary, not just James and of course Nate Diaz, who's fighting this weekend, is a long-standing vegan, but power lifters. The Tennessee Titans football team, I think they said, was up to 14 or 17 vegans.
Well, you got an NFL guy.
Yeah.
To me, an NFL defensive linebacker is the ultimate athlete for a fighter. Mm-hmm. They're explosive, they're strong, they're brutal. I mean, they're in the trenches, they're going to war. They have to jump higher, run faster, and continuously do it, every 53 seconds, however long is a break. So when you told me those guys at the top level, and that's what I told my wife, I leaned over and I was like, if this was just a fad or some bullshit, these guys are $1 million assets to a team.
That's right.
Though they're not going to allow that to happen. If all of a sudden their performance dips, they're going to be penalized. I mean, shit, they get a $15,000 fine if they don't cover their knees. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden you go out there and you're like, what's wrong with you? Well, I'm doing this vegan thing. No, you're not. So, you know what I mean? If it was a problem, they'd be like, you go over there and eat a steak right now.
And not to mention, you had the little snippet of Oprah with Carl Lewis.
30
years old is when he broke all his records. And we're old enough to know and remember that time. So when somebody like that, that's, when there's certain things in there that really caught my attention. Like Frank said, the blood, the gladiators, right out of the blocks. I said, you had me at gladiators. Seeing what they did, pristine diets, pristine training. And then obviously the football testament. And then, I love what he said with going, well, everybody we looked at so far is lean. Where are the big guys at? And then you see that. And then my favorite is the silverback gorilla will fuck you up in 2 seconds. And what does he eat? Grass.
Well, there was two things that have always been my unanswerables. Because I was like, I've known about that we're not supposed to eat the amount of meat we were supposed to eat. I've always thought of us as more as omnivores. We're like bears, like roots, berries, vegetables, what we can get a hold of should be the mainstay of a diet, plant-based.
Right.
But when the opportunity arises to eat meat, take advantage of it type thing, we still have canines. Right. And then the guy goes, well, the gorillas have canines. They don't eat meat. It's purely for protecting. He goes, now if you look at a true predator, their molars are like scissors. Right. Look at our molars. And I'm like, looking, I'm like, oh yeah, it's right there. And I already knew, we don't produce enough hydrochloric acid to break down bacteria in meat like a dog. A dog, throw a raw piece of meat on the ground, a dog can eat it. If you and I eat a raw piece of meat, we're going to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like our bodies can't deal with that, And then the B12 one was always one, that was the one that I've always hung my hat on going, we still need some meat in our diet. Because of B12. And then when it broke down and said, hey, no, B12 comes from bacteria that's in the soil. You get it from the plants if you're eating, but because of pesticides, even your meat doesn't have enough B12. That's being supplemented. So really, basically, we live in a modern society where we all need to be on a B12 supplement, meat eater or non-meat eater. It's like, well, the natural order of things have been affected by mankind, mostly good. And this is one of the drawbacks. We screwed up the bacteria and,
I thought the documentary also did a great job on it, really casting meat as just the middleman.
Exactly.
Saying, we're trying to get to what the animals are eating anyway, and we're just creating this unnecessary, not only middleman, but very expensive, very draining on resources, middle ground.
Well, and the inflammation thing, I know firsthand is huge on me, because just me cutting dairy and not eating meat that often, for a while there, for the last 10 years, I've actually had to pay more for my life insurance because I have elevated blood pressure. And then they told me, oh, you have cholesterol. It's because I'm Latin. Well, your father's from Cuba. You're a Latin guy, man. Just, 80% of cholesterol's, genetic, and I was being told these things. Now that I've eliminated, even at this point where I'm basically a pescatarian, my blood pressure was 120/70 for the fight. The day before the fight, my heart rate was around 90 because I'm pumped up. I'm in the back. I'm excited. I'm looking at Roy. You know what I mean? And even then, my blood pressure was 120/70. And I won't say that on air because probably illegal that I was looking over some of the other people's blood pressures on there. They left them on the desk, so I'm looking and like, oh, how do I compare? I had one of the better blood pressures of anybody on the card.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, that was one thing from doing this fight that I did, because at my advanced age, there's a bunch of extra medicals you have to do. But it was nice to get all those back and see that everything was in super good shape. I mean, for 49
when you had your
years
shirt
old.
Off. That's why I was sitting there. I mean, and Austin's a full-blown vegan. Like book writing, just like Bible thumping almost.
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably the first one that started making me question my thought on how much protein people really need. Right. Because I was sitting there going, well, and I looked at him and he was on our show and I'm like, this guy has guns. He's like muscular.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that's where I think they really did a good job showing us that we can perform better as athletes, or more particularly you. I'm just trying to survive and not have a heart attack now at my age. And I grow up. I mean, as the cyclist said, she's from Kentucky. Well, I'm from Pennsylvania, and everything's meat. Yeah, meat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I've been doing
that's definitely meat and potatoes there, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what we grew up on. I still do it. My son does it, and so. There's a lot of things that just the light bulb went off and I said, okay, this is it.
I'm happy about the kids. I was like, oh, if I can make it better for them.
Yes, exactly.
I'll tell you another thing too. Watching that one football player's wife that was doing the meal preps, knowing what she was cooking, that stuff is so good. Like I was sitting there thinking, these football players are not feeling deprived. They're sitting down and feeling like they are eating a hearty meal, and they are. Yes. It's just the difference is because you don't have all the saturated fats, all that stuff in there, when you're done eating it, you don't feel like, I got to just sit on the couch and be sedentary.
I think that what vegans are actually getting into is what it feels like to have a good fight camp. So I've only really felt great from food maybe 4 occasions in my life, and that was because I really stripped back all the horrible things that veganism makes you do. I think maybe 50% of Latino people are lactose intolerant. So like one diet for all doesn't make sense, because we're all conditioned conditioned by virtue of where we were born, Pennsylvania, Manchester, Cuban, or wherever. That
Texas.
Your food comes from wherever.
You're from Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you understand that
Yeah,
better than anybody.
your food comes from wherever your conditions, and when I was growing up, we could maybe get meat once a week, and then overnight we could get it 3 times a day. So it was like, okay, we'll take it 3 times a day because we've only been able to get it once a week. So and then all like it took over, and like I said, some of my friends have never felt good from food, so they don't understand the difference. So they walk around eating the processed, the frozen food, and think that, hey, I'm not fat, I'm looking good, I don't feel good. But they generally don't know what it feels like to feel good. And I think when you go vegan, you strip back all the necessary rubbish that you get in your diet. You generally know what it feels. So you want to. It becomes a prophecy, and it becomes like, people say it's like a cult. Vegans want to push this on you, but they just want you to feel like they feel. And I do get it, because I felt like that a few times in my life. Frank and I were joking that I don't feel that way right now because I go through a fight camp without training, so I never lose the weight, but at the end I celebrate like I've been dieting for 8 weeks. So I had like pizza, cookies.
He said that in the car. I was laughing my ass off. And then I laughed like about 2 minutes later. I was like, bro, you got to say that. That's funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like wheezing now. I'm like, honestly, like from whatever it is, I don't. I feel
crazy.
Terrible this morning. I woke up thinking, I can't believe I've got to travel all day feeling like this. So.
Yeah,
Yes.
that reminds me of, well, this is a bit risque, but anything goes on the Wild Frontier podcasting. Frank, after I had my fight, we all went and ate at Taco Terrian, this great vegan taco place here in town. And we were sitting there, and because I got, my nose got busted, I wanted to blow my nose, and they told me not to blow my nose. And I had said to my girlfriend, I go, God, all I want to do is just blow my nose, and it's irritating because they tell you not to. So my girlfriend says to Frank's wife, she said, yeah, he's saying all he wants to do is blow his nose. But Frank's wife thought that she said something different. And Frank's wife said, oh, well, I guess that could help if you, And then Frank heard that, and Frank goes, me too. He goes, we suffered this loss together. Well, and it's the whole thing that we were talking about is relevant this weekend because, like I said, you've got Nate Diaz, who was featured in the Game Changers documentary, fighting Jorge Masvidal. And a couple of things. One, that's a guy who's not going to miss weight. Two, that's a guy who's not going to gas. He's always in incredible shape. And he had a little bit of a scare this past week because he was told, although it was never made official, he was told by somebody that he had tested for a banned substance, and they traced it back to some supplement, and that, of course, that's a problem with all supplements, unregulated industry. But the point is,
That was kind of fast, wasn't it?
That cleared it
24
up.
hours, right?
Yeah.
So they figured out that he failed, and then tested this. I'm telling you,
And found the source within like 24 hours.
Yeah, because
so.
I've been in that situation where I've had supplements tested. It took months.
Well, but I'll bet you if it takes months, unless maybe you pay the express fee, I'll bet when they want to get it cleared up, they get it cleared up right away. You don't think so? I mean, I think they do.
Well,
Or
the proof is in
what
the
I'm
pudding.
really thinking is it was bullshit to begin with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what I
You
was
know what I mean?
gonna-
Like, I don't know. They just, I would have waited a couple days and be like, oh, okay, now, you know what I mean? Like, just to turn around that fast was very
unless
suspiciously fast.
Well, unless
and I could be wrong. Maybe they were already testing.
That's
it.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe Nate was behind the curve on that,
Yeah,
and maybe
and
it had
we were
already
all
been the
behind the
process.
curve, and
yeah.
then it got caught up.
But what I was going to say is, I think this is a situation, everything we were just talking about, that benefits somebody like Nate Diaz. Because you know what you universally saw when the word got floated out about this? Everybody, including his opponent, Jorge Masvidal, all immediately went, nope, not a chance. Not Nate Diaz.
there's no
Nope,
way.
there's no way.
Yeah, after all the furore is put up about everybody being on steroids, it would be like the most ironic turn of events ever that if he was to fail in that. And I think
if Nate was on steroids, he needs to go shoot a steroid.
Yeah, I was going to say steroids.
he needs a new deal.
Made it growth. I don't know, but
if you told me Connor was on, I'm like, all right, well, Connor has a really good build. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not going to say he is or isn't. You know what I mean? But if you're like, oh, that guy is, I'm like, really? Like, you know, like when Josh Barnett got vindicated, that, you know, for 2 years almost, and they finally came back going, no, it was tainted supplement or whatever. I'm all, that makes sense. I'm not denying that.
You know what's so
It didn't
strange?
strike me as a steroid guy.
You know what's so strange about Josh Barnett is he has the head of a muscular dude. If you just cut off his head, Like if you showed me him with a shirt, I'm gonna go, oh, this guy is gonna be ripped, and then he doesn't. It's weird. It's like a weird body look. He's
the
got that
genetics
square
that he
head.
has, he just has short clavicles. His shoulders are narrow. If his shoulders were wider, he had more of a broad chest, then it would fit his body.
Yeah, his hips are wider than his shoulders, so he's like me. He carries weight like a 40-year-old woman, perhaps like myself.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's since we do have a fight on the horizon, let's talk about that for a second. Now, this is a rare main event, the UFC pay-per-view this weekend that is not for an actual title, although they made one, the BMF title.
Out, right?
Oh, is that right? The Rock is going to hand it out. Okay, that could be.
Mikey,
You mean Dwayne Johnson, The Rock?
Yeah, that Rock, yes. Well, he's going to crown the BMF winner between Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz. I'll ask you guys what you think, Frank. You can start. I'll just throw out the idea that I am leaning toward. I see this as a possibly close decision. I don't know that anybody gets finished.
No, I mean Nate never gets finished, and to finish Jorge. Jorge has a good chin. I don't know if Nate hits hard enough really to even test that, and he overwhelms people.
Yeah.
I could see it being, well, I take that back as I'm talking myself through this. Cardio, I mean, it's a 5-round fight, and that's the worst brother duo to fight in a 5-round fight. They just don't stop, you know?
Yeah.
I believe that it's such an accumulation punch, Diaz, and I think he's such a perfect 5-round fighter because he doesn't take much damage. He hangs around on the edge of distance, and the minute you stop or the minute you wane a little bit and on the back foot, like open yourself up for shots to the body, then he will take advantage. I think it's a great matchup for Diaz. I think it's a great matchup for the fans, but I think it's an even better matchup for Nate Diaz, and I see him winning by a late submission or by a good decision, a good handed decision personally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Nate. Of course, Nate has near record submission numbers, but he'll have to get there with Masvidal. And like you said, Frank, Masvidal's got a very tough chin. I could just see this.
Well, Masvidal's he went with Damian Maia, and Maia couldn't submit him. Maia's the greatest. I mean, that doesn't mean Nate can't, but it just shows that the pedigree of Jorge's submission defense. If you can go with the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner in MMA and not submit, you probably have decent defense.
And then again, even if you don't get that submission, just the fact that you're challenging with submissions, if you're defending submissions, that's time you can't be spent on the offense a lot of times. So I think I think it speaks well of it that the UFC has always been, and I've always disagreed with this. They've always been so hell bent on having every main event for a title, and to the point that sometimes when it's not really for a title, they'll make an interim title. I mean, at least with this, I realize there's a little bit of a gimmick with it, but I'd rather have this than forcing artificial title
It's a feature fight that someone gets a belt at the end for, and it's cool for everybody. And I agree. I just think, why 5 rounds every main event, and why a title fight every show? If you want a title fight every event, do what's best for the sport anyway, and bring in the boxing weight classes. Do every 7 pounds a new weight class, and it helps the sport. It gives you a title to hand out at the end of every show, and it helps the fighters out, and it brings a bit longevity to the sport. And it's just something that's been spoke about forever and never been done. So if you want a title, bring more divisions. I just think it makes too much sense for everybody. Yeah,
I'd be fine just with not tinkering with it. I mean, I'm fine if these aren't title fights, but I'm old fashioned that way, I suppose.
I would like more weight classes because then I think also too you can do multiple champions. It could be easier to always have those super fights.
Well, that's true. There would be more super fights, and you
have like a super middleweight versus the middleweight or light heavyweight,
And you do get people that get caught in these tweener situations. I mean, they're just
there are some big gaps in jumps. I feel bad for guys at around 155 because think about it. If your perfect fighting weight's 163. Do you cut 8 pounds and become a malnutrition 55-pounder, or do you become a small welterweight that you're always undersized because now you're fighting a guy who walks around at 190? You know what I mean? Like, and let's say you walk around at 172, 175. It's like that's a big leap to go all the way down to lightweight, you know. And then
I just think we missed out on some of the best fights of all time. I think we missed out on having some of the best fights of all time by having such a big disparity between the two. Like the atypical human walks around between 11 stone 155 and 12 stone 170. So why wouldn't you give somebody a little bit of leeway in the middle? Who doesn't want to see Dustin Poirier versus Paul Daly fights like this? Like between the fights that we've all like been robbed of, really, you know. And like Paul Daly is small welterweight. And you got like big lightweights, and they were made for like Habib. Would he fight at 165? I think he would. And
163, cut it right in the middle, right?
Yep.
I think there should be a 163 weight class.
Quick sidebar, since you brought up stone measurements. My favorite AC/DC song is "Whole Lotta Rosie." It's about a fat girl, and Bon Scott says in the song, "Ain't no skin and bone, giving all she got, weighing in at 19 stone." How much is that?
Well, 19 stone
like
would
me,
be
right?
265 pounds.
Woo! That's Frank in a dress.
I got sexy legs.
Who would want to see that?
All right, now in the co-main event, this one's got a little bit of confusion around it as well. Kelvin Gastelum is going to fight Darren Till, or is he? Because Darren Till was having visa issues last I heard. Last I heard, he was still actually not cleared up with the visa.
Good old England, right?
Yeah.
So
what is all that?
Well, intrinsically, crime and fighting are very well linked in the UK. Like when I come to America, and especially Vegas, and I see all these family gyms with like the people with the full family in there, women, children, and stuff like that, I just think maybe this is what fighting should be like, but it isn't like that at home. I know a bit of a crazy stat actually. Bellator Europe is now a thing, so we have like Bellator, which takes care of the whole world, and this Bellator Europe, they signed 42 UK fighters at the start of last year. 36 of them have big visa issues. So it's like fighting and at home is very different to fighting here. It's more so like the lads off the street rather than athletes and wrestlers and stuff like that. So it's intrinsically linked that way, yeah.
So it's just because maybe you've got something on your... I mean, I don't know if that's the case with Darren Till. Well, Darren Till did have some things like... Didn't he stole a cab over there and drove it around the block a couple of times?
Darren Till likes to party, you know. He likes having a good time, and like most UK fighters, and Darren Till has the reason he speaks great Portuguese is because as a youth he was such a great talent in Thai boxing. He was sent to Brazil for a number of years. He actually has a Brazilian wife and all that business, and he moved back to Liverpool maybe 2 years ago because where he's from it is not a great area. So to like get wrapped up in like gang life and stuff like that, the gym and Colin Heron did a great job of really taking him out of that and pushing him over and letting his talent come to the top of obviously the cream. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they get it cleared up because Kelvin Gastelum said he was not accepting a replacement opponent, and that's the co-main event. So, yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
You know, I'm not trying to play conspiracy theorist, but hearing about the visa issues and everything with our time and the travel and with the terrorisms, and I don't know how much it has to do with that, but it brings me to a point when we're talking about. I just saw that the Joshua Ruiz fight is happening in Saudi Arabia, which blew me away. I was very surprised to hear that. So just knowing what everything is happening over there, it just
Money talks, man.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And that's why you got WWE going over there.
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
going on
Tyson
with
Fury's
that?
making an appearance.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to be taking that money right now, and it's like that's kind of the bummer. Like I like to think because combat sports are the only real sports I follow, and certainly with martial arts, I like to think that not just think. I mean, there's an honor to it, and I like to think that when people train together in the right gym and the right environment, that they hold themselves to higher standards, and I think they do. That's until money gets involved, and then when money gets involved, it's just like it reminds you that it's just there's always a promoter who doesn't care anything except getting that check, and they don't care what it says.
And it's hard to do that to If I was single, I would have all kinds of standards that I would hold. You got a wife and kids, man. That's why when people say, "Would you do that?" I'm all, "You have enough money." I mean, yeah, I would. You know what I mean? Like that provides for my children. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry. Like there's a lot of injustices in the world. You know what I mean? I'll do what I can when I can, but at the same time, like I don't. When people sit there and go, "Oh, Beyonce did this," or somebody does this, and it's like money. I'm all. really? Like you wouldn't? You know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
came along and said, hey, I'm going to give you some, $500,000. Most people, $500,000 is life-changing
Life-changing,
money,
yeah.
right? I'll give you $500,000. I need you to go over there, hang out with the guy that killed that person. Yeah, okay.
It gives people an opportunity to get on the soapbox a little bit, and we'd all like to live in an idealistic world, but I would argue that martial arts and fighting are completely different at this point. So to make money out of martial arts is a very difficult pursuit. To make money out of fighting, it
It would be like ridiculing a band and saying, I thought music made people better people. It's like, well, yeah, they're doing music, but now they're entertainers. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we're
you
crossing
quantify it.
lines. Yeah.
Well, just the concept of selling art is a dichotomy.
Yeah.
And just the idea that that was kind of like
I
the
firmly
original.
believe that's a rich person scam that I do not understand.
Oh, no, I don't. Well, I don't mean.
What is
Art. When you sit there and go, I sculpted this, it's worth $20 million. Hey, I'll buy it for $25 million. I'm like, who the fuck is saying that's what? I've walked into the Fertitas places. I'm looking like, oh, you see that 10 fucking? It looks like they had a dolphin that was like $50 million. That was made out of 10 that looks like a blow-up dolphin, and some famous artist, and his artwork, I'm like looking around, I'm all, one of the paintings was just fucking polka dots. And they're like, oh, that was like $1.4 million. I'm all,
crazy.
For a twister mat.
yeah!
Yeah.
And it wasn't even different colors. All pink fucking dots. I'm like, really? Give me a marker. I'm about to be rich.
Yeah, I once got this interesting piece of advice from Tommy Smothers. Now, everybody, including me, is probably too young to really know who the Smothers Brothers are. But the Smothers Brothers were a legendary comedic duo, still around, Dick and Tommy Smothers. And in the late 60s, this is actually a very interesting story. There's a documentary about it you would find very interesting. In the late 60s, they had a television show called the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour that was very popular on CBS, but it was during the Vietnam War. And they came out as this, and they're these two sort of clean-cut looking all-American brothers, that play folk music, and it was like happy good time variety hour. Well, they started speaking out against the Vietnam War on the special. And the president, Richard Nixon, was putting pressure on CBS to cancel them because they were so heavily viewed that they were swaying opinion. And so he wanted to silence them, And I've interviewed him a couple times, and I remember Tommy Smothers telling me, he goes, here's what you got to look out for. He said, here's what happens. He said that when you, start to get a little fame, that they want you, your bosses want you to get the big house and the nice car and all that kind of stuff because it extends you. And you have a high bottom line at that point, a high bar you have to meet. And then they come to you once they get you in that mode and they go, we're going to make a few suggestions, just a few revisions. And at that point, you got to take it. He said the best thing anybody can ever do, and of course, virtually nobody ever does it, is basically get yourself in a position where you always live enough ticks below your means so that if somebody does come to you, you can go, no,
That's
fuck
how the
you.
world.
No.
That's how the world enslaves all of us. Like people talk about
Yeah.
slavery and stuff. I'm all,
Yeah.
very much is alive today. It's just that we're all slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
There's a
best way to
wage
enslave
slave.
somebody is to
Yeah.
put you in debt.
Yeah.
Oh, now I know your ass is going to go to work every day or do this. You know what I mean? Like you're going to do what I want you to do because if you don't, I'm cutting the lights off to your house, your kids. And then I'm keep pushing the bar. No one lives within their means because it's like,
Yeah.
my kids want
Consequence,
iPads.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the neighbors went on a trip. Now my wife wants to go on a trip. The new car. We're constantly doing that.
Yeah, and from my perspective as an outsider here, I think like America is like surely like just a game of Mario. It's like who can accumulate the most coins, and if you don't, if you don't have it, if you
keeping
don't
up
have
with
any,
the Joneses is definitely American culture.
Yeah.
Because I'll go over to the UK, and I would think that you guys are the original. We are a derivative of the UK, right? I go there, and you guys have a way more laid back approach to life, where it's like, sometimes I think that's why my wife and Ashley they'll look at each other and be like, and Ashley, his wife, is very content with, as long as I have this, this, and this, I'm happy. And my wife's very much an American. It's like, that's not enough. You know what I mean? Like, no. I mean, I have more than most people in the world, and we go to bed miserable. Like, well, how do we attain more? How do we protect this? It's like, fuck, man. Like, let's just enjoy life.
Yeah.
You know what? We ought to put Princey's wife to the Disney test and see how that holds up. Let me tell you what happens with Frank's wife. She
did really good this trip.
Yeah. Well, when my girlfriend, when we go to Disney together, Frank's wife will take her around to the shops, you know, and I'm looking at it. I said to Frank, "So what? God damn it!" I said, "What's going on over there?" And Frank's like, "Hey, it's more powerful than me. I cannot."
Stan Lee said my favorite quote, probably when it comes to marriage and success, right? The comic book creator, right? Marvel. He said that behind every successful man is a woman that spends all his money.
And that's genuinely the case over here, 100%, 100% from what I've seen.
Yeah.
On a side note, I was thinking something just because we have everybody here from different walks of life, right? Really off the cuff here, but talking about, because you made me think of it when you're talking about Nixon controlling the CBS. Do you think and obviously I'm making it very oversimplified. There's tons of groups out there. But in general, if I just say liberal and conservative, just kind of break it down into two as barbaric as I can make this description. Who do you think controls the media more, the liberal side or the conservative side?
Well, neither. I'll tell you what it is. Who controls it is the money side, because this to me is
which I think is the liberal side, because movies and actors and all that stuff. The reason why I think it, real quick, just before you guys, has anybody heard about what just happened down in Mexico?
I don't know what.
Okay,
in Mexico.
Luis Guzman, Chapman, right?
Yeah.
His son, right, who's now in charge of the cartel down there, the Sinaloa, right? Yeah. Got captured by the government.
Oh, right.
They raided the house,
yes.
right? Then his people came out and started shooting the fuck out of the police and basically held Mexico City ransom. They had to let him go. Like the cartel strong-armed the government. Like,
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Too much power for them.
Why is that not like mainstream media, like just plastered over everywhere? I think because it would validate, whether you agree or disagree with building a wall, me telling you that, like, hey, by the way, south of the border, the cartels run everything, and they're, these motherfuckers are badasses. We might want to have a level of protection between us. It adds to the argument, and that's why, like, it's just not. I keep talking. Hey, did you hear about Mexico? And most people look at me like, "What are you talking about?"
Isn't the counter argument that you could perhaps like a small militia, that you could put together your own militia that could then in turn fight the government, and that's
well, they're exactly right. That's exactly where it comes from. Absolutely.
We don't want to show that
we're. I mean, not to go political, but
we do it here.
I feel like we're on the verge of a pseudo civil war right now. I mean, between the two sides, the arguments that are going back.
You guys, you're tied being older than me. Has it ever been this? I mean, fuck. People say that, but I'm like, well, we had fucking civil war. The civil rights movement. There was, people getting their asses kicked in the street, fucking hoses, canine dogs, fucking ripping people. I'm like, so saying we're the most divided we've ever been. Like, I'm leery to say that because I've only been on this earth for 40 years. Right. But in my 40 years of experience, this is the most divided I've ever seen in the U.S.
Well, I think it was, obviously we came through what we came through. It seemed to have gotten better. But it feels like we're reverting back to it with, when you turn on, again, I watch all the medias, I'll pull up CNN, I'll pull up Fox, I'll pull up MSNBC, and then I'll go to the AP just to get, the pure news. But there's so much sensationalism, going back to your point. I think the liberals run it more than anything because they run Hollywood.
That's what
Hollywood controls your media. And then who controls Hollywood? Then you got to go on the world stage and say,
now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. Who controls Hollywood? So, this is, I'm a former military guy, and and I go back to the Saudi Arabia comment because I'm so surprised, that in itself. How are we over there, knowing what's all going on we think about 19 terrorists from 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. Yeah. The recent journalist who was just killed in the controversy that we just had.
And I said that to someone. I'm like, dude, wow. I'm like, well, he wasn't American. I'm like, he had a citizenship here. You know what I mean? Basically, you're telling me that my dad's not an American because he wasn't born here. Right. But he's an American citizen, man. Like we should, like shit.
I think that we're moving on with the same point, but we're moving far away from the issue at hand, and the narrative is exactly that: left versus right, Muslim versus Christianity. It's all nonsense because, like what Mel alluded to, who controls the media? The people who control the media. We're just given the illusion of choice, that left versus right, because that causes divides between us. And while we're divided, we actually don't see the cause of issue at hand. And the cause of issue at hand is this game, this capitalism game, is sent for people who can make the most coins. And the people with the most coins, they're not bothered about left versus right. They're bothered about keeping their coins.
That's right.
With that being said, you look at the Saudis being traditionally Muslim, which they are, all of a sudden they're getting into the capitalism game. Because that's what's happening.
Just
How
watch your mic here, Mel.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're getting to the games of capitalism. That's
Well,
why the
then-
fights and everything are happening over there.
They're not, but the people in power are.
The
and
people,
that's
the prince.
issue.
That's right.
So we can
so
go
he's
to
trying to
Saudi
move
Arabia.
that country towards that.
Yeah.
Towards the direction in which we're talking.
Yeah, I mean,
So to backtrack just a slightly, because that's an interesting take on that. Because I thought it was more or less people not wanting to validate Trump's basically campaign promises of building a wall. But you're saying that you feel, especially as a former military, that might incite people to be inspired that, well, look, a small organized group of guys with weapons
It's already happening.
could basically take over not take over our government, but
at least cause an
But
issue.
if I had 200 guys that had my back and were crazy, I get arrested. They could do some damage to
There's
get me
no
out.
question. And the militia's
Yes.
already it's just a matter of time before we almost saw a glimpse of
When
it
you say
with-
that, what do you mean? Like it's already happening? Like
Yeah, like
the
local
militia's
militias.
organized.
Yeah.
They're training. They're ready. Look what happened at the ranch here in Vegas.
Bundy Ranch.
Yeah.
Right. That just happened, and you saw the standoff between the government and that. And if you really follow the social media, the backing that the ranch, which was I forgot it was what was it?
what the ranch is called?
Yeah,
or
what was the ranch called?
You're talking about the
one that I heard just
yeah,
happened.
where they were the
The
three.
five
Bundys,
Bundys.
but, right.
Bundys, yeah.
But they,
The Bundys,
well,
yeah.
the Bundy family, but they took over that. It was government-owned land,
Right.
and
It
they
was
had
based
the
on the
standoff
cattle and
there.
everything, but the
Yeah.
standoff happened. And basically, what I
grazing,
saw
right.
was
And people showed up that
the
never,
people that
Yeah.
showed
never
up.
shook the guy's hand, and they're like,
right.
"Oh, I'll
Yeah.
back him up."
That's right.
Brought their rifle. I saw pictures
right.
of guys sitting on the bridge. I'm like, "Well, this is a scary fucking situation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
someone
And
might
when you-
die here."
If you follow those documentaries, you see how much the country's really ready to pounce on something like that. And it's a divided lines. Clearly, it's liberal versus conservatives. It's
What do you think is the
exactly
missing? Like, what do you think if we ever have a leader like step up and become
Well,
a voice? Like,
I think
unified?
that's a lot of the people are embracing our leader right now in that regard. Now, I'm not saying he's that. Okay, he's very clever enough to stay away from that, to say I'm clearly that, but they're trying to make him that. They're trying to say that's our guy. When you look at his base,
we're looking for a
he
revolution.
doesn't have the typical.
No, and they're focused. They're die hard.
Yeah, they're not the
Trump
typical
fan is a Trump.
affluent base.
Donald
He
Trump-
rallied a base of people
Yes.
who are
Yeah, he's a
the
base-
lesser.
he's a
He
vote
rallied
right.
a base of people who didn't already have
A voice.
someone to take them on, and the difference was he was willing to. But he's a salesman, so I always tell people, I said it's worse than being a racist, because a racist, wrong as they are, they do believe in something.
Yes.
They're wrong, but they believe in something. This is a salesman. So what it is, it's well, who will back me up? Well, we got this group of people that nobody ever liked. Oh, okay, you know what? I'll take them. If you told him,
Grab the
if you
disenfranchised.
could convince him that next go round for his reelection, that for some reason he would have to embrace the gay community, he would be in a pair of assless chaps
whatever
faster than
sells
anybody
well.
else,
And
because
then
that's who's
When
going
we
to keep
call him
me
a
in.
populist, then
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's really it. And you look at the "Make America Great Again." Okay, so what does that mean? To me, there's subliminal messaging in that. What does it make it a great again?
Yeah, we've
Yeah, 'cause
lost
that's-
What
our
do we
way.
go back
It's
to? It was
happened to
great.
Yeah, because I mean, you sit there as a person now with the proper term, a person of color, right? That could be a very loaded subject. You go, hey, let's go back to a great. Like, what was it great in the '60s?
Exactly, 'cause I
was it?
wanna
I mean,
know that.
yeah, I mean,
good
I'm
old
sure
days.
there's
When
a
was
couple.
it great?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go economically, we can go certain periods. I mean, you can go to the Clinton era. I mean, we boomed. There's certain times and you can say what was great and define great, because that's really what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because his base, I believe, are separatists.
Yeah,
And then they wanted to go back
Yeah, they
to
wanted to
that.
go back there,
They
yeah.
wanted to go back
The
to
the
that.
difference is when you ask about, are we more divided than anything else? Here's where the equation has changed. In the past, when you have had leaders who have been in political trouble, whether it be Clinton or a great example of this is Nixon, Nixon still cared about his political legacy. He was doing all this in secret, but he resigned in shame because he knew, well, I'm still going to have a legacy. I got to build a library somewhere. How am I going to be remembered? He had devoted his whole life to this. Donald Trump doesn't care. Donald Trump is, you know what? It doesn't.
Yeah.
It is the quintessential example of, and I always say
Is that
this.
an edited photo or is that real?
No, it's real.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah.
Did anybody see when he the al-Baghdadi thing when he announced it? So I think Jimmy Fallon or somebody did a little cut up of when
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah,
we did the mashup
when
of
Obama announced that they killed.
Look at see if you can find. I know it's on Jimmy Kimmel's Twitter feed, Mikey. He did a mashup of when Obama announced Osama bin Laden's death and when Trump announced al-Baghdadi's.
It's
It's incredible. Well, but what I was going to say is getting back to the money. because the thing about the money is that the further you get toward the top and the 1% of 1%, that's where you get the fewer political lines, I think, because then it always comes down to money. So the great illusion is if the working class, if the 99% ever looked around and said, you know what? We're different colors, but we're in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly.
He's underpaid. I'm underpaid.
I've never
That's why we're
seen
at
more
home.
people vote against their interests.
That's it.
Yeah.
In my life, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm really down the middle on a lot of topics. Some things I'm very liberal, some things I'm conservative about, but I pick and choose, and I look at. There are things that I'm okay with paying taxes on that I don't fight for because I'm like, well, that's just life. I like driving down the road. I believe in universal health care. I wish we would fix our health care system big time. Personally, I'm okay. If I blow my shoulder out, I can take care of it, right? But other people can't. And I sit there and I'm just amazed by guys. I look at them like, you make $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Why are you voting for this group who's going to cut the taxes for people in my fucking tax bracket? You're screwed. Like, I don't get it. Like,
But are they though? This is the thing that drives me insane. In England, we have we have more than a multi-party system, but there's only really two parties that count. And then, so historically, Labour have been for the north of England, which is like the working class, and then the Conservatives have been for the south of England, which is where the money is. So at the moment, we have a Conservative government, but whenever we've got a Labour government for the people, it was just the same. We lost the same public services. It's just an illusion because they're all puppets. The two-handed puppet, aren't they? It's like I'm sure some of these people it's like when you.
I think they all get together and they're all on the same team, dude.
Yeah.
I really think it's the
they all
haves
go to the
versus
same
the
school.
have-nots.
It's a big club. It's a big club of people that have been born into that club.
Well, and that's where the money comes in. But even if you think about it from the rich person's perspective, even if you feel like, hey, I'm good because money's going to insulate me and my family. No, not if your kid catches an airborne disease. Because guess what? My poor kid comes into contact with your rich kid. He breathes on him, and he's still getting sick. But
Honestly,
wait a minute, I have all the money. How can this be possible?
When he's talking about the two-party system, that's what's fucked up because I'm not a pure Republican. Like, for example, I believe in immigration reform. Yeah. I think immigration is what the U.S. was based on.
America.
Now, I might be biased, but I mean, think about it. Like, the idea is that we get the best of everybody else comes over here. Right now, if anybody really looks into what it takes to become a U.S. citizen, it's near fucking impossible.
Very impossible.
Right?
Yes.
It's difficult. But we need the laborers. We need guys that are blue collar that just, hey, man, you don't have a record. You've never done anything criminal. Cool. We'll have a process to vet you to be over here. But right now we don't. So then when I talk to people like, oh, well, you're more of a liberal. I'm like, well, not exactly either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go back and forth. I'm like, well, no. Some topics,
We're moderate,
yeah.
right
But
down
you
the
tell
middle.
people like,
This is
hey,
what
look,
we are.
I think that gay guys should be allowed to get married, but then at the same time, don't take my fucking guns away from me. You know what I mean? Like, what party do we belong to?
He's got it here. All right, blow that up there, Mikey.
Come on.
There we go.
About al-Baghdadi with Obama's about bin Laden, and we were right, it was.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
The United States launched a targeted operation against that compound.
They did a lot of shooting, and they did a lot of blasting, even not going through the front door. You think you go through the door. If you're a normal person, you say, knock, knock, may I come in?
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
But his death does not mark the end of our effort.
A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation.
And I don't get any credit for this, but that's okay. I never do. But here we are.
May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
And I'm writing a book. I think I wrote 12 books. All did very well.
All right, so
I don't agree with
the
everything
internet-
either guy does.
No.
But completely. I mean, there's things that I remember when Obama made the threat, like, hey, who did he make that threat to? I forgot. It goes down as the time Obama blinked. You know what I mean? Like,
the red line.
The red
with Assad in Syria.
right?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. He didn't go through. And I was very disappointed in him. I'm like, I understand saving soldiers' lives, but at the same time, like, there's a greater good. You volunteer.
Congress also didn't back him up. The Republican Congress at the time wasn't willing to vote to authorize military action.
No, the president authorizes military act. Congress decides whether to fund them.
Well, yes, but they wouldn't take a vote on it to support
Yeah,
him,
but
is what
I'm pretty
saying.
sure that would have been a death sentence.
I get your point.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair. Go
But
ahead.
I'm just saying. So
Which
there's mistakes.
ironically led to the Arab Spring, which
Yeah.
that just ended with him.
So I mean, like, look, I have criticism about Obama as much as with Trump, but the one thing is like, man, at least Obama, agree or not agree with him. Like, if you said, "Hey, that's my president," I'm like, "Yeah, that's my president."
Yeah.
There's things I don't agree with sometimes on a political. No, there's things I disagree with.
Yeah.
But I'm not embarrassed that guy speaks for me. Like,
Yeah.
well educated.
Right.
I mean. You just hear how he speaks, it's like, oh, okay, that's a leader.
And he's not from the same club. My point is this: in England, we have a famous school called Eton. I'm sure, like some of you guys have heard of it, but it's just a club to the boys' club. In the same class at school, okay, was David Cameron, leader of the Conservative Party, Ed Miliband, leader of the Labour Party. Ed Balls, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. So the three major parties were in the same class at school.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
who else was in that class? Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can they all be pulling in different direction when they've had the same schooling, the same
Yeah.
teachers, the same environment, the same friends?
It's all an illusion, yeah.
Well, and to Frank's point,
And Trump, though, to finish off,
Yeah.
that guy, he's seriously, I wonder, like, if we tested him right now, what do you think his reading level is?
I don't think he's particularly smart. That has been the real stunner of all this because
I thought he was a smart guy.
I
really
Businessmen
did.
aren't smart. They're just lucky. They just happen upon the right.
Ben
the right
Shapiro said it best. Shapiro, I'm a fan of. I like Shapiro. And he said, he goes, sometimes you can't contribute with, what did he say? It was like basically like, don't contribute malice with something that can be easily explained by ignorance or stupidity, basically. Like, so when Trump does shit and you're like, oh, that's awful. He's a super genius, evil trend. Like, no, actually, he's just an idiot and just kind of fucking walked into it.
It goes back to his base. That's exactly what he appeals to.
Yeah, they relate with him.
Exactly, they relate to him. But that's also what he ran on. I'm different. I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to go down that road. In fact, we need to get away from that. We need a businessman in here.
And that had
that's what
me.
he
Look,
ran.
if you go back in 2015 on the podcast, I was for Trump being put in. I was like, you know what? I'm just anti. I was one of those people that was saying it then. I'm like, you know what? If it's between him and Hillary, I'm taking him, dude. You know what I mean? Like, she is the embodiment of
The system.
Yeah, that's it.
The
That's
political system.
To Mel's point, though, what he just said about, well, we're going to elect a businessman. Speaking of back in 2015, this is what you heard me saying on this podcast.
You were against
the
it then?
country is not set up to run like a business. It is a non-profit. On paper, the worst person you could choose to run the country is a businessman with no prior political
Or
experience.
what'd you say? You said you can't fire people.
No, in a business, if somebody is underperforming, you fire them. In this country, we subsidize them. We don't. Now, once we start euthanizing the weak, then maybe you'll have an argument to make. But don't get any ideas, Frank. My point is that we don't do it. We don't do it.
It's worth the conversation.
So what I'm saying is, it's this simple concept of, well, he's handled the budget. Maybe you handle the budget like, I mean, the pimp I used to work for would say when he was running for office, hey, I have a budget
Trump
at work.
has
It's
done
just
good
extra
things too,
zeros.
though. He has. I mean, look what he's brought. Businesses that were overseas and throwing our labor over there. Why do you think our unemployment is an all-time low?
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. If you look at actual wage growth, you've still got a lot of disparity there. What has happened largely with this tax cut is stock buyback program. So these CEOs, again, that ruling class, that wealthy class like we're talking about, they didn't go, oh my gosh, a whole bunch of extra money. I should pay all these workers more. No. They didn't do that. The point that I was going to make, though, about
I believe
that,
in giving corporate tax breaks because I think that money trickles down to hiring employees. I don't believe in giving tax breaks to the super wealthy on a personal level.
I'm fine with the corporate tax breaks if they earn it. If you show me, show me
performance,
tangible results.
I get that.
Yeah,
but that way those higher, and then I think you give tax breaks on a personal level to the middle class.
Yeah,
I mean those are the guys.
That I'm fine with. Now,
they spend money. They put money in the system. They don't put money in the bank. Rich people make money. They're smart with their money. They fucking put it in the bank. Whereas you give guys that are making. If you have a household making less than $120,000 a year and they get a bump, trust me, that's not going into savings.
100% of it back.
That's
into the
going
economy.
to the donut guy fucking down the street. That's going to go to the car dealership. That's going to go to the electronics store. Kids might get a better education. Like it circulates in our economy.
To your point about that video, and I understand it's done for comedic purposes. But here's one problem about, and one thing you and I both agree on,
Are you still good on time?
Yeah, I got to go at 10:30.
is the reverence of the office and the importance of having a statesman. And I've always felt this way. I mean, I'm an old soul that way, and I've always been a student of history. I will say this: it's so important to have somebody who, when they speak, the world stands up at attention and listens, whether they like them or not. And here's the thing about that. I guarantee you that even though we're 3 years and some change into this, someone at the end of that 40-minute monologue he went on, some speechwriter looked at the other speechwriter and said, "It never occurred to me to tell him not to plug his book." I'm sorry, my bad. I did not think about the fact we needed to tell him not to do that.
Sam Harris's podcast, and he had Ricky Gervais on. I was a fan of both of them immensely, right? And Ricky was talking about comedy. And he was saying that as a comedian, you can't really poke down at people. You have to show that you're on their level. That's why even though
punch up.
Yeah, so he goes, I do a lot of things to endear myself to the fans by making fun of myself. So we can laugh if you see me on the same level as you.
That's true.
But if you see me as a guy who has, I'm driving on a jet stream, flying here, and I don't work, and this is my job, then you might not be able to laugh with me. That's the part that sometimes I wonder, like, was he a genius or just fucking it worked out for him that way? I have a hard time believing Trump's that lucky. So there's times to me I sit there and go, his intelligence is just in a different way. But I think that's one of the things that helped him is that people look at him. He fucking has a 4th grade reading level. Look at the words he talks. I mean, is that very, very beautiful, very, very beautiful. It's like, bro, really, your vocabulary is horrible.
Well, and it's a choice between let him read, because Obama was reading. Clearly, Obama was reading, and he was speaking off the cuff. So it would probably be worse if he let him read, and then he'd really recognize he has
he'd pull like
intelligent level.
We could pull a Burgundy, right? Burgundy, like
There's nobody else.
Whatever he puts on the thing, he'll read.
Right.
There's nobody else subscribed to like the Tesla theory with Donald Trump because I'm all in on that. Like, obviously Donald Trump's grandfather worked with Nikola Tesla and all the books that came out there with, and all the things that Donald Trump's prophesized. I believe that time travel is true. This is a real out there stoner theory, don't get me wrong, but I believe that time travel is true, and I also believe that Donald Trump would if anyone's capable of traveling time with his infinite wealth and knowledge, and obviously be able to tap into Nikola Tesla's back catalogue. I think that if anyone was to transcend time and see, because think about it, if you was to transcend time, what would you do? Would you become the American president? Would you marry young women? Would you accumulate wealth? Would you build big buildings? Would you go on TV? Would you just put little Easter eggs in there for everybody just to buy into? Because maybe you're just having a good time with it.
He can do things too that's so there are things that's why, like, that's the part where I'm like, maybe I'm the idiot. Because, for example, like his son, right? He's gone on now on the news and keeps ridiculing Hunter Biden, saying, well, it must be nice to be a Biden and use your father's name to go overseas and make millions of dollars. And he says it, and I could imagine if I was a speechwriter in the back, like, okay, we're going to get you on there, you're going to talk about this topic. Yeah, I think I'm going to go out there and talk about how, like, nepotism and just the fact that, like, this guy's only making money because his dad. You're like, you're going to say that? Yeah.
That's right.
Trump Jr., you're going to go up there and say that. Yeah. It's great. It's fucking a horrible idea.
Yeah, I know.
This is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. And he goes up there and does it, and people, like, buy it, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, wait a minute, he just told you he's going to fuck your wife, and you're bringing her over? Like, everybody's okay with this? Like, I'm just blown the fuck away sometimes.
It is incredible. It is incredible that you can play that game with the American public. But I'll tell you what, this comes down to...
Oh, we're way more dumb than I am.
No, we are. We are.
Well, that's
oh my God.
If
I
you
did
watch
not
Bill
realize
Maher,
how stupid we are.
Yeah.
we've been dumbed down, and that's
it.
exactly what they want. When we talk about votes and doing things, most people don't even know the actual issues and what where the tax is going. They don't know.
No.
Where's the money going? They don't know.
This comes down to Donald Trump
They don't have an interest in it. You start
Donald-
talking about it, they're like,
Donald
Those
Trump,
things affect me.
Donald Trump figured out, up until he had the Celebrity Apprentice and that stuff, he was a name that people knew, but most people never touched because he was just involved in high-end real estate and that sort of thing. And then he got into the marketing, he'd slap his name on stuff. But birtherism is where he realized he had a product he could sell to stupid people because he tried it and it worked. And as he saw that, it was like, wow, now the average idiot will buy this idea of birtherism. So what he did was, and this is classic bait and switch salesman, he pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, that birtherism, until he got absolutely cornered. And then when they said it was birtherism for years and years, then when they got him cornered and he finally had to admit there was nothing to it, just as he's cornered and you think, okay, now they're going to get him, you know what he said? Have I shown you my wall? Let me show you my wall. I got a new product you are going to love. The birtherism lady. I got a product you're going to love. Let me show you the wall. And that's what a salesman does.
Well,
they move to the next.
You know what people do now in scam letters is you get scam calls and they're dumb. You look at it and go, how the fuck would anybody fall for that?
Yeah.
But they do it on purpose. Because at first I was like, oh, well, if you would, if English isn't your first language, you might want to run that by somebody and go, hey, like, is this how, the bank would send a letter, or is the IRS, certain, vocabulary that you would want to add in there. And they don't. They purposely make it to where if you buy it, they've already established you're a fucking idiot, because it's like, well, you couldn't figure out that that's not spelled correctly or whatever the case may be. So then if you do make contact with them, you've passed the first test. So I think that's what Trump kind of did also on the side note of going, hey, you really believe that this guy's gotten this far? He's become the president of the United States. He's fooled our fucking Secret Service, the CIA, the FBI. Everybody's been fooled. This guy got away with it, and he really isn't a U.S. citizen. Like,
but see, I think it speaks to the bigger problem. He didn't win. Our system allowed him to get in.
Yeah, no,
that's the bigger problem.
Our electoral college,
yes, and
go,
that's
man.
so
it makes no sense to me. The most popular person wins. When people go, oh, different states, I'm like, that's not how it works. We're voting for a federal person's most popular person. State by state, we are a federalistic republic. Okay, well then you get to vote for your state laws, and and I believe in a smaller federal government. But overall, it's like, well, whoever fucking wants to be why does my vote matter less because I have more neighbors?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just in terms of raw percentages, 30% of the American public, I think, 30% is batshit crazy. Like, they'll go, you never know what they're going to do.
70%.
Well, but
from
no,
an outside looking in, 70%.
I'm talking hardcore. But then it only takes about another 10% if they're placed in the right areas to affect an outcome. So when you end up having not a majority, but you end up having that type of outcome. I realized it as soon as, we started hearing about Russian interference in the elections and everything. Whether or not you believe they actually had an effect or there was any collusion or anything, the one thing everybody does admit, including Facebook themselves, is that these ads were bought by foreign interests, right? But you know what I got stuck on? Who's getting their news from Facebook? Like, what idiot is looking at their Facebook page and going, I haven't seen this story anywhere else except my friend Tom's Facebook page.
I'm
but
okay with that.
I think I'm going to buy into this.
But you have to be the same way, like what Mel said at the beginning. Whenever I see anything, I go on RT. Then I'll go.
But I'm saying
you got to cross-reference things and say, okay, well, this
evidence-based
is
evidence-based.
But I'm talking about the opposite. I'm talking about the person who just sees that story and goes, "Oh boy, it's there."
Right. But I think the same thing of a guy who just watches Fox or watches MSNBC.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
If you just get your information from one source, it's like, well, it's always biased, man. You got to talk to 50 other people that have different points of view, and then try to figure it out.
Yeah, and Zuckerberg just came out and talked about that because they're saying, what's her name? Cortez,
AOC, whatever.
Yeah, AOC. She was just drilling him, and he's like, "Well, I'm leaving it there for you to discern that they're lying, and if they're lying, you pretty much know what you're dealing with there, versus me going in and editing and
because I don't want him to edit it because that's censorship.
That's right.
That scares me. I'm like, look, if we have to have bad information to allow people to speak, that's the price of freedom of speech.
That's right.
And it lifts up. You have to be a critical thinker and work yourself through it. I'm more. That to me is the lesser of two evils. If you tell me you're not allowed to say this, that scares me.
Suppression,
that scares the shit out of me. I'm like, guys, censorship, that's scary. You tell a group of people they can't talk about something or say something. That's why I get mad about political correctness sometimes. I feel like that's just an overt way or an inverted way to suppress people from speaking about things. Like, you're a misogynist, you're a racist. It's like, well, wait a minute. I can't have a conversation about race or conversation about gender roles or should a transgender woman be able to, compete with other women? Well, But if you sit there and go, well, no, you can't even talk about it, And censorship, it's scary.
Yeah.
Well, all true. And the other thing is that when you start talking about what people are willing to subscribe to, and this gets to, you certainly want to elevate the level of education. There's no workaround for just elevating the overall level of education. High education will fix everything like this, because like I remember years back when my buddy Hal Sparks, when Hal and I were doing we did stand-up dates in Austin together, and we went on Alex Jones's show, and this was years back before Trump embraced him and all that. And this guy is ranting and raving, talking about lizard people running the world. And we walked out of there, and I said to Hal, I go, that's entertaining, but, that's silly. No one's buying that. And Hal looked at me, and he goes, this guy's dangerous. And I was like, wow, come on. Who's buying? Oh, he's like, no, this is dangerous. And sure enough, look at the number of people that you have to talk to today that will argue with you that there might be lizard people.
And I think
it might be reptilian people.
Well,
see, there are Prince's.
But you know what, though? I think it's entrenched in the people that are extremists that we have in the U.S. We have look.
The Navy did just admit to UFOs.
James, for example, is a Christian, but he doesn't ever claim that 100% of the Bible's true. He's like, well, it's been written by people, this and that. I believe this. And I can deal with him because I'll sit there and ask a question and be like, well, what do you think about this? Because I really don't know. I really don't. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, okay. What I'm not okay with is the people that buy in 100% and go, oh, it's absolutely, we all came from Adam and Eve.
That's right.
100%. I'm all, the earth is really 6,000 years old. Yes, it says it verbatim.
Right.
But the problem is that even though those guys are typically harmless, it sets up a mindset that like, well, if I can get you to believe in 100% into this with no validation, with no proof, that's the group I want to pander towards.
Yeah.
Because I can get those guys to let me shoot somebody on Times Square and get away with it and not lose a vote, because I'm like, well, those guys, they're bought in 100%. Not like a normal person. Like, look, if you ask me if there's a God, I'm like, wow, I really don't know. You know what I mean? There could be, there not be. I see things, I really fucking hope. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I swear to God, I mean, the minute you have children, you hope that there's an afterlife, there's gods or something. You know? But if you sit there and go, 100%, do you think Jesus was this guy instead exactly? I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. It's like from 3 different interpretations that we get this. You know, they don't even know the body, whether he was there or not. Did the body disappear before they got there? Did they see him disappear? Like, there's 3 different versions of it, you know?
It just taps into our most innate responses and tribalism. Everybody wants to become part of something, and if you're an outlier, you've not been accepted into some social circles.
Which could be death in the real world.
Everybody wants to be part of something, and everybody is afraid of not knowing, and that explains things like
is that
Greek
a bad
mythology. Well, here's the thing: it's an
not
innate,
knowing's okay.
It's an innate fear. So even back in Greek mythology, you know, when there was thunder in the sky and they asked the leader, what is that? The worst thing he could say is, I don't know, because then why is he in charge?
Absolutely.
So he, off the top of his head, he goes, well, that was Zeus.
That's right.
The thunder god.
Right. I always use the analogy of Moses in the burning bush. Somebody says that today, you're up there smoking something.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I think that they were
absolutely
smoking
something. Yeah, and they probably were, because it was natural.
Yeah.
It wasn't illegal. Think
Right.
about it.
No,
So if you're
yeah.
hallucinating, and you see something.
No, there's
like
a lot
that,
of people talk about it. Could have been a DMT
absolutely.
plant or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
think about it. Peyote, all of those things
Yeah.
are natural.
That's why I'm not ruling out reptilians, by the way.
That's and it's crazy. I'm almost with him.
Yeah.
And there's several reasons. So I apologize. I got to go here.
No,
you know,
yeah.
And we go from politics to religion. But I wanna
We
go
cover
back
a lot
to
of
sport.
ground here
We
on
cover a
the
lot
show.
of
We'll
ground.
go
But I
back
want to
to
go
fighting
back to sport
eventually.
in Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
and your views on the Joshua Ruiz fight. What do you guys think about that?
The fight itself, or the fact
The
that
fight itself.
Oh, I think that Joshua took him lightly the first time.
You think that's what it was?
I think he got caught. I think he realizes now that Ruiz has a good chin and he's very resilient. You know, almost a stereotypical Mexican fighter. It's like, the guy ain't gonna go down, dude. He's gonna keep coming after you and be in your face. I think if Anthony goes out there and fights him and tries just to outpoint him, land good solid shots, move, and just go, hey, even if the guy gets hurt, you're probably not gonna finish him. I think that Joshua showed up very heavy. You know, the heaviest he ever weighed in, and he blew his wad. You know, he went out there, goes, oh, I got the guy out, and then shot his wad. And, you know, if I give you 100% of my output in the 3rd round, it's like, well, or 2nd round, it's like, all right, well, now, you know, you got 10 more rounds to go. And I think that I think that hurt him.
I just think styles make fights, and Ruiz is a really, really, really bad matchup for Joshua. And,
Yes.
and I think if they fight 10 times, Ruiz will win 10 times.
Yeah,
Really?
I kind of feel. I feel
Just,
the same way he
just
did.
because of
Well,
speed,
you guys are
the
the
way,
coaches on the fighter.
just because of the way of his speed, the way he works inside. If you watch Joshua used to be really good with his feet, but now he has his feet planted. He has a low left hand. He's very one-dimensional. He's looking to land the right hand, and he only lands it off the jab. And what Ruiz never does is let you establish the jab. So I just think that. I think the same result. I think in the mid to late rounds that Joshua gets stopped. He doesn't move his head well enough for a puncher like Ruiz, who's like Mike Tyson style, like a windscreen wiper defense in your face. And I think that Joshua's been exposed as the overrated athlete that he is. I don't believe that he's a fighter. I believe he's a great athlete. So.
Yeah, and he is a great athlete, and I think it goes the same thing with Tyson Fury and Wilder. I think the same thing. He got exposed. He got lucky and got up. Not lucky, with that shot that put Fury down. But he's the better boxer, much better boxer.
I think everyone's a better boxer than Deontay Wilder, but they don't carry that over and right.
Yeah, I mean, Deontay is a phenomenal good athlete. He's very.
Joshua's a good athlete.
Yeah. Joshua's
the apex.
I think
apex.
I think Fury's the best boxer of all of them.
I agree.
That dude's
Wholehearted.
fucking- it was funny. I had an old boxing trainer before. Princey, who was like, and I hadn't seen him fight, and like, maybe we'll make a jump to boxing, and Fury guy, he'd be, low hanging fruit. Then I started watching a couple of his fights. I'm like, why would we call that guy out?
Yeah.
Like, I'll never even land a punch on that dude.
Right.
Like, his fucking head movement, his hands, his ability to smooth things around, that would be suicidal. I have a way better shot of fighting Wilder. It's like, at least I got good head movement. If he doesn't hit me, maybe I can beat him up and get him tired. You know what I mean? But I'm like,
It's a similar fight to Roy Nelson, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, just avoid the right hand. Okay, you know what I mean? 40 people haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
that are all really good boxers. Yeah. But that being said, if you sit there and go, what's the way to beat Fury? Like right now, if you gave me a pen and pencil, I can probably pen out some strategies on Joshua, pen out strategies on Wilder. But if you sit there and go, hey, do Fury, I'm like, I really don't got you, buddy. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, Fury's like the Frank Mir of boxing, in the fact that we jokingly, and a few people in the press like cast aspersions about Roy, about his evolution or lack thereof, and then obviously after the fight everyone's talking about how Frank added a few wrinkles, and they're just both students of the game. Like Tyson Fury's from the same town as I am and all that, so it's good to see him develop, but he can box from both sides. He's a great student of the game, and he's got some great coaches and instruction that he doesn't have a plan A or a plan B. He just has many ways to beat you. Everybody knows Wilder's got one way to win, and like Frank says, it's like a Rubik's cube of how would you approach the Fury fight. And I'm at a loss without watching of how you would really get inside. And
if you don't know how to beat him, then that's pretty
I
fucking.
think that happens again. I think he hands down beats him, probably knocks him out this time. We'll see.
Solid panel today, guys. Solid panel. Mel, you're a welcome addition. Come on with us again sometime.
Appreciate having me.
Good stuff. Yeah,
Well,
Frank surrounds himself by smart people. I like that.
Try to.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah.
Well, it's something he alluded to in the beginning. Is making sure he understands that he bought in, because we approach it here first.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Oh, dude, the first 2 weeks, I was best friends with the. I left practice holding a garbage of my fucking vomit. I'd vomit in the bag, wrap it up. All right, guys, see you. I'd grab my water bottle and a bag of vomit. He's
like
not
the
leaving
kindergartner who had the accident.
No, it was probably about a good 3 weeks. A month for one workout in particular before I could even finish it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I never the try workout, right?
That's right.
It got to the point where I came in one day and I think you gave me a choice. I was like, no, let's do the try. Fuck it. And I told you, I said, dude, I'm losing sleep over this. Yeah. I can't finish your workout.
Because in when you lay it out on paper, you'd be like, that's easy, lightweight like that. Because this guy's super strong, and it's all about basically his stamina. That was my whole focus, to build his stamina, and it focused total body. So it worked all of his muscle groups and everything. But the tempo is the key. The tempo is what's really gets you, and it's nonstop. And hell, when we first did it, it took him over 30 minutes. But when we finally finished it, when he actually was able to conquer it, which he's yet to do, because there's still more pieces to come, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Okay, you've got this phase down. Now we bring in.
We didn't add weight
round.
yet. Yeah. So far, that's what he told me. He goes, eventually we're going to start adding weight to this. But I couldn't even do all 3 rounds.
That's right.
Yeah. So I finally got it to where I got 3 rounds. I'm like, okay, I finished it. He goes, all right, cool. We're almost to the point where we can do the workout. Right. Like, so when he's not being facetious saying that, oh, well, he hasn't even done it yet. truly, I haven't done it the way he wants to have it done. I can't even get to that level of conditioning.
Yeah, and having been around it like we all have, everybody's seen these trainers like, no, I can push you further, we can push faster and all that. And I know, like, from when I was in England, I was speaking to Frank about house training going and all that good stuff. And I know the way that he works. Someone will impress him with something for 2 weeks, but he'll soon figure out if there's nothing behind it and all that. So I kept asking, how's it going? How's it going? He said, it's really hard. And I expected it to be hard, but the way that he was buying into it, and when I got to America, I always judge Frank's performance by his mental state. It's not about his physical outcome. It's like, if he's in the gym and wanting to show people things, he's excited about training, that means that he's really bought into Mel's training, maybe training for myself, maybe something that's happening at Drysdale's. And like I said, if his mindset is in a good place, he's not 40-year-old. His body isn't 40-year-old. I approached it like he was a classic car last fight camp.
Right.
I don't believe that he is a classic car at this point. I just believe that with a good buffering and polishing that Mel's given to him, I think that we're fit for purpose for another 5-6 years,
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
And that's what makes me laugh so much when all these journalists after the fight, after a good performance, I was saying, so Frank, yeah, good performance. When do you think it's time that you could really hang on? And yeah, of course you would have those thoughts, but I think if you watch his body and you see the good work that Mel's already put in and is going to continue to put in, I'm just excited for the future, not just Frank's future, but to see that Bella and Cage are in such good, safe hands. It's great.
Any other fight in my life had Bella and was working my corner, right? So in the past, they thought that there's a commissioner assigned each fighter. He follows me around, makes sure that I'm not taking anything or just putting anything in my gloves or whatever. And so they go to your corner, they watch your cornerman, right? And so at the end of the round, usually he holds the stool, or somebody grabs the stool, and so the stool was forgotten. So if you watch, I'm walking in, and so he realizes that there's no stool, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're not going to need a stool." I'm like, "I'd like a stool." So then my hands are against the cage. I'm sitting there talking, and it's about 30 seconds later they have the stool. I'm like, "Actually, I'm all right." You'll see me shake my head. Nah, it's cool. I don't need to sit down. Most of the time, after 5 rounds of fighting, I'm like, can of corn. I just need a can of corn.
But I only know from playing like when I played soccer quite religiously, but after a while it became a little bit of fun. So he'd play on a Sunday morning. On the Saturday night, he'd go out and have a drink. And for the first 40 minutes, it was the most difficult thing ever playing soccer, because you're like trying to get your breath back, trying to get yourself in a good position. And it's like, what I figured out in that moment is, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not in shape and you're not fit for purpose, you're useless. So like when I got here, Frank was already fit for purpose. So everything that I was trying to instill in him and teach him was going in at the first taste. So it just made my job so much easier. It was so like, and obviously and then I wasn't really worried about form and basics. His hips were great. His speed was fantastic. It was already like probably 10 marks above the previous camp before we even got started. And look at the results, So let's stay on course.
And that's the first thing I try to convince him. And your age is nothing. Just forget that. That's not even a problem. If we do what we need to do, you're going to be fine.
Boy, I need this guy for my next fight.
No,
I need to be
you.
hearing
Well,
my
listen,
age.
man, I'm 52.
Did I hear
so-
next
Yeah.
fight?
No, you're
Did I hear
49.
next fight?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, trust me. And now with the new couple nutrition and really understanding that, and that's new for me. But I'm 100% understanding. I'm only 5 days in, and I'm already feeling it. We get this guy, and we just and what we focus on was little minor muscle groups. We weren't focused on anything major, other than obviously his explosiveness, and like I said, the mobility through his hips, which was so key. So with that one, I gotta go.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
all good.
Pleasure.
Thanks for being
Thank
on
you for
with
having
us,
me.
Mel.
We'll talk more about.
Yep.
What are you
We'll
guys
let you
doing
go.
tonight?
Yep.
I just got the text from the wife because I think we're gonna go do some haunted houses.
Yeah, we got it in our. Mel does our house is a haunted house.
Oh, are you? Maybe we'll come over and see it.
Yeah. Well, he's going through the neighborhood. Our neighborhood sucks, but it's his thing, man. So yeah, we'll
Really?
talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
All right, there goes Mel. Thanks for coming on with us, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Now, just to wrap here
Austin.
real quick. Oh, Austin just showed up?
Yeah, we got Austin.
Oh, there's Austin. I thought it was maintenance out there. I thought they
is
were
maintenance.
Oh, it is
I'm
maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Did Austin
High
join the
maintenance.
Austin, come jump up, grab a mic, dude.
Did he just get here?
No, he's been here for about 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Come on, Austin. All right, Austin's coming up. Just a couple of quick things.
We've
we
been
should
very
mention.
anti-vegan so far, so we need to change
No.
it.
Hey, man.
No.
How are you? Good. See you.
It looks like he's been
Aries.
having a few plants this morning.
Oh,
if I
yeah.
can, if
I
I
just woke
can
up.
notice
No,
that.
just
Yeah.
kidding.
Austin Aries just
Allergies.
took Mel's seat there.
I don't think I've ever been around him and not have THC in his system.
Couple of
Have I ever been-
Allegedly.
couple of
Let's see.
quick
CBD?
things
Maybe
here.
when I was 13.
You know, we should do our part to help spread the word about this, Frank. I don't know if you have seen this. Do you know about Walt Harris's stepdaughter missing, the big
Yeah,
ticket
my wife
UFC
just told me
heavyweight
that, yeah.
fighter? So Walt Harris,
Like, she's like 15. Someone snatched her up.
she's
and-
she's 19,
19,
but
okay, yeah.
but she's 19. She's
the
been,
car was messed up or something.
yeah,
They just
she's
found-
been missing for a week. And they found her car abandoned, and there was damage to the car.
Jesus
This
Christ,
doesn't sound
bro.
good.
No.
This
No.
doesn't sound
And
good.
apparently she met a guy on a dating app.
Okay,
And,
that
you
I
know,
don't know about, but you know, it's certainly plausible. The thing is, go to Walt Harris's social media, and he's got a tweet up about this and video about it. There's a picture of her. They're looking for Walt is based in Alabama, I believe, and the governor is offering a reward. Dana White's offering a reward for information. So go to Walt Harris's social media and check this out, and just help him spread the word. Really scary stuff.
You know what? I don't think you should be able to even be able to convict a guy if he catches the people that took his daughter. And
Well, and you know,
to me, it's like it's like passion of crime. It's like,
I
well,
think you just get 3 bullets, and then it's up to you.
oh, I don't want to use a gun.
hopefully.
That best said,
some
put,
people-
put it on pay-per-view, too.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully none of this is
Raise
the
money.
case. Hopefully there's another explanation, but I know that, that's just hopefully.
You're
That's
right.
the worst
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
night. That
Yeah.
to me is the worst. People talk about being, rape or murder. To me, the worst is kidnapping and never knowing what happened to your child. To have a child, I mean, look, there's lots of awful shit out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I like any of that, and I'm not. It's all fucking awful, and hopefully no one that ever has to deal with that. But obviously, it happens.
Yeah.
But out of all of them, to never know what happened to your kid, like
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
closure. Like how the fuck?
Like Belfort's sister, isn't it? They never she got kidnapped and they never.
She was last seen on October 23rd, and a surveillance camera at a convenience store picked up footage of her there. Like I said, they found the car abandoned. She is a Southern Union College student. She communicated with a friend that night. Then they found her car the next day. It was found, a 2017 Honda CRV was found in the parking lot of an apartment building in Montgomery, Alabama. That's where it had the damage on it. Foul play isn't being ruled out, criminal investigation. So we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, hope the best for Walt Harris and his family there. All right. Frank, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell everybody?
Well, if I could talk a little bit about some of the stuff that helped me out.
Oh,
too.
I'm sorry. I thought we had to roll. Are
No,
you
no,
good?
I'm done. I'm just real quick.
you're good. Okay.
I just want to really, look, Sarah over at Mitrospec, really honestly, I mean, you can see here every day I take a bag full of just, different supplements and stuff. The Kratom is obviously I'm really big on that she has that really have helped me out. But there's other things on there. I mean, everything from turmeric for anti-inflammation. They have ashwagandha, which I think is a great. I have my kids on it now, and then obviously shaman CBD stuff. I mean, I honestly live on CBD like crazy now. You know what I mean? Like I take 30 milligrams in the morning, 30 milligrams at night, sometimes in the afternoon, depending on how bad I am. And it really has helped out with the inflammation. It made it to where I didn't have to rely on ibuprofen as much as I've relied on in the past. I've used ibuprofen because I think I said in the last, I tore my labrum very badly on my left side. That's why if I'm not on kratom and ibuprofen, it's hard to move around for a practice. Obviously, anybody can, once the fight happened, I'm excited, my adrenaline's dumped, I can get through it and lift my arm up. But then as soon as the fight's over again, so those guys really helped out a lot.
And
So-
I think, just going back to what I keep repeating about mindset is that is probably another of the biggest benefiting factors. Because what I believe is what goes down goes further down, and then when Frank's in pain and he would have to address that, however means he would get to address that, would only be like a real stopgap for that initial pain. But what came after that was not conducive to good training, wasn't conducive to a good camp, because the residual effects of what it would take were far far worse than the actual initial injury. So thank to Metrospect and for the great work they're doing, and hopefully continuing to research what they're doing, because they did a fantastic job with Frank.
Yeah. So shout out to all those folks. Thanks for being a part of Frank's camp and his continued support system. Hey, we need
Did you
to.
and I also too combat cultures I sprung up, so.
Yes. What now? That is what's
it's
behind,
clothing
yeah.
and actually a TV series I'm trying, or a show I'm trying to put together. Where look, you can see, my dad's in my corner, my daughter's in my corner. Combat is my culture. You know what I mean? Martial arts. All my friends and acquaintances, everybody's involved in some form or another. And so I just want to start going around, and that's the part of it is it's a family tradition for me, but really we want to start going to different places. And I know people have done it before, but go to different, go to Cuba and work out with the boxing team, or work out with the wrestling team. Go up into the Manchester area, and I want to go work with the bare knuckle gypsy boxing guys. You know what I mean? Go up there and see different cultures that have combat ingrained in them in some way. Azerbaijan, going to Baku and work. How many gold medalists do they produce in wrestling?
Mongolian
Yeah.
series guy. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, so that's really would be one of my, it's one of my bucket list things to get done, and so that's where the name Combat Cultures come from. And so putting it on T-shirts and getting the word out there is something we started to spring off. That's the sweatshirt, and Galen and I are trying to get going.
Excellent. I also noticed that you had partnered for this fight with supporting Justin Wren's fight for the Forgotten, which is mostly focused on opening up water wells to areas that basically don't have clean water. I mean, I know he does some other good things.
Yeah, there's some anti-bullying stuff on there
yeah.
too. Justin, look, for the last couple of years, I've seen him on social media, and we've trained together before, and so I got to meet him, and that's people don't realize that sometimes when you work out with a guy, you get there and punch each other in the face or choke each other. You really get to know each other really well.
Quickly,
yeah.
And this is something that I've remarked, because when I came into the sport, I had a big group of friends, and they're still my friends, but I'm much closer to the people that I sweat with and train with, because I think ego. Let's go back to ego. When you're with somebody, you just get their version of themselves. But when you're training with someone, you see them at the worst, you see them at the greatest, you see the greatest achievements, you share it with them, and you also you see them break.
Yeah.
How many of my friends that I've been friends with for 30 years have I seen break? Maybe one who call you drunk one time, but never seen them break and rise again and get the hand raised. And that's the beauty of training.
I also think that's really good for empathy too, because if it's your good day and their bad day, you don't run the risk of getting carried away with that moment, because if you've known them for very long at all, well, mine's either coming or it happened yesterday.
Some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, Frank.
Yeah, so I wanted to jump on when the opportunity came to advocate for Ren.
Yeah.
Look, I'm dedicated to my wife and kids. So the idea of me and moving over across the ocean to dig wells and help people out, it's super admirable. I'm not in a position to do that, but I'm in
plus
the same
they're going to have a real weak Wi-Fi signal. We're going to have a hard time taping the podcast.
Well, the thing is that just because you can't do what the next guy can do doesn't mean you shouldn't do nothing.
Do something.
Right. Everybody's capable of doing something.
Right.
So I'm blessed in this world that through the 20 years of being a professional martial artist, that people pay attention to what I say more so than maybe my neighbor. And so if I can put my mouth to something, or put voice, spoken word to a concept, then I can help out in that way. Then why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
It's not what takes some of my time. It's
Well,
silly not to.
we also need to recognize Porno Mikey over here, Frank, because since we have been back in studio, Porno Mikey has officially announced that he's going to become a father.
Yep.
And this is with his wife, which
that's
is
always a good
That's
thing.
great.
better.
Yeah, congratulations.
And
let's hold the congratulations. to get that part of it.
There has been an official gender reveal. And would you like to announce if it's either Mikey Jr. or Michaela? Which is it going to be?
We're having a girl, and name is Peyton Lily Kelch.
All right.
It's
Yeah,
pretty.
due date is February 29th. That's so we could have a leap year baby on our hands.
Oh.
Yeah.
4 years you could have a
Yeah.
birthday.
You know how people say dumb shit. It was funny. My wife was pregnant. The dumbest thing anybody ever said to me, I just looked at him. I was like, that is not even funny. Like I really, and look, I've been in the public eye a long time. I've had a lot of stupid shit said to me. So when you say something so stupid that I remember you as you're like the drunk stripper at the club. Like, wow, you're the drunk one? You know, like, out of all the drunks, we know you as the drunk one.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so, wife was pregnant. Oh, that's nice. Do you know who the father is? You know, and ha 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 ha. You know, I'm like looking at the dude. I'm all, that's like, is that funny? You know, like,
I kind of think that's funny.
Actually, it's a line I would use.
Yeah. The better version of that line.
Not to you though, of course.
The better version of that line, just for word economy, would be to say, "Is it yours?" Oh, great, awesome, yeah, cool. It's more subtle that way,
Right.
But yeah. Now, Mikey, who is very crafty, he makes a lot of things at home. If you follow on his social media,
Children,
very
for
impressive
one.
stuff. Yeah, well, children. But he has already. This baby isn't coming until February, and he made this ingenious thing I saw the other day. It's a bassinet, but it's got a rocking chair attached to it. So it's a rocking chair bassinet combo. So he sits in the rocking chair and rocks a bassinet at the same time. He'll pull up a picture of it. And he added a beer holder right
It's
there.
a bottle holder.
Wow.
Oh, it's a bottle. Okay. Yeah.
Bottles of beer.
Yeah. Look at that thing.
Well,
See-
it's actually I put a slat in it for a coffee cup too.
Yeah.
So
he
great.
made that from scratch.
Yeah.
And he can put the baby in the bassinet and rock it. And
wow, that is really
look
cool,
at
dude.
yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I think
there's my
you
plan.
probably start selling those things.
I was
Make
just thinking
them-
that I'm all.
You know,
I've never
hey,
seen,
like,
that
yeah.
concept, man.
I feel like we're on the shark show right
Yeah,
now.
right.
So if I invest
Yeah,
10
right,
grand,
yeah.
The one
I'm out.
I thought about it, but the one thing is that I posted at the Reddit, and there's the dogs in there. And selling baby furniture with the liability,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would never. I thought about that. I'm like, that'd be cool.
That's for pets,
I could make
not
that
for
Yeah, that's
babies.
true. I could sell this as a
Yeah,
bassinet.
go back to now. There's Pinky and Kona.
Yeah.
Mikey's two pit bulls testing out the baby furniture. And by the
Yeah.
way, Kona is today. I saw she's having ACL surgery.
Yeah, she's coming home today. So after
Oh,
this,
good.
I'll
Okay.
go to
All right. Yeah, they're
And
they're cute babies. Oh yeah, that's
see.
how the coffee cup fits in there.
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, that is impressive stuff there. Yeah,
thank you.
Mikey's very crafty.
Yeah.
I want him to. We talked about making a table for this room. We've got some plans for a table in this
Yeah,
room.
a lot of the baby.
As long as it
furniture.
rocks Frank to sleep.
Yeah.
That's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's really good. And
I like a beer holder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Very
there's-
impressive. All right. Well, congratulations,
there's,
Mikey. Yeah.
There's
oh,
the ultrasound.
Oh yeah.
So that's Peyton's bicep
I see the resemblance.
flexing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
We're registered on Amazon if you want to use the phone booth fighting
Yes.
Amazon banner to donate to our registry.
great idea.
You could do
Use
that.
the Amazon banner on the front of Phone Booth Fighting. Click through that, and then you look. Where they just search your name. Is
Yeah,
that how
you
find
scroll
it?
down to the bottom of Amazon and it says like gift cards and registries,
Yeah.
and you just search Mikey Kelch and it pops up our registry. It's usually the first one there.
KELCH.
Yep.
No T. KELCH is how you'll find Mikey. All right. Very nice. Now, I know it's February's still a little ways away, but has fatherhood changed you yet? They asked that question.
It really does. Like it, you just start thinking about stuff. Like Frank says, like, oh, you can do this for your kids. Like I've like shifts at work that I've picked up, and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. It's it's gonna be a 4-hour shift. After taxes, like $70. It's like, no, you get up and you do it. And just like how more productive I've been, like doing that stuff is like, okay, well, normally if I go to work, I'm like, that's what I do today. I go to work and like that's it. But now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't go to work till 2. I can get, I can do this, just like kind of managing my time more.
Uh-huh.
It really does. And like, hearing the heartbeat and everything the first time, it was just the swell of emotion was, I know
Yeah.
you said it's indescribable, I think you made a bit like, oh, they all say it's indescribable but it is, it's indescribable. You can't, the emotion that you felt when that is, it's,
It releases things in your brain. That's why I
Yeah.
always tell people that if I feel bad for people that can hurt their children.
Wow.
Because there's something wrong with you. Like you are
Def-
fundamentally just wired wrong. And you know what? I'm not against euthanasia.
Yeah. Well, now let me.
If you can do that, like to me, it's like
Yeah.
if you can harm a child, not even just love and want to die for one, but if you're on the other side of the spectrum, you're like, oh well, my kid, fuck him. I'm like,
Oh.
we got to get rid of your genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause there's something wrong with you. I wouldn't try. Like I look at people like on how they are as parents. Because if you're not a good parent, then how are you ever going to be cool? You know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah.
you're shit to your kid and we're doing business together, it's like, well, you're not going to treat me better than your kid. You know what I mean? You're fucking him over. You'll fuck me over the second it happens. You know?
Bad parents raise bad parents.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Got to stop the cycle somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, this will be exciting for the podcast. We'll follow Mikey's progression there, and hopefully she'll learn to produce. So, at some
are you going to
point-
watch Game Changer?
I don't. I've heard about it. I don't know if I
Watch
will.
it for us, dude.
Yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, watch it just to participate in the conversation.
Okay.
Look
Yeah,
at it that
we'll do.
way.
Yeah.
Look, I can tell when I ask him things he doesn't want to do. Like normally, like we're talking guns. Look, he won't break eye contact. Right now, you want to watch Game Changers? Like, I'm all,
Put it on the queue.
He's not going to watch it.
Yeah.
Not even when James Wilkes comes here, he's not going to watch it. He's just going to say,
Yeah.
I watched it.
Will
I'll watch
you-
the Cliff Notes. To
Let me
be
ask you
involved.
this. Let me ask you this, Mikey. Here's the test for what you're willing to do for your unborn child. Let's say that you talk about picking up these extra shifts at work. I call you up and I say, listen, we can book you for, let's just say it's not the most desirable porn shoot. Lucas Frost is going to be there, who, of course, is the man that famously ejaculated on your upper torso. But as you know, this is money that can go toward the college fund. Where do you weigh in on that?
No, you got to take it. Like I've, like
Literally, another shot to the chest.
You got to show up and do it. Yeah. It's just-
Yeah, one of my good friends, like we always have a little bit joke around, like what would your number be? Like everyone's got a number that they would sell. They'll sell the soul at, or not the soul, maybe the arsehole.
Yeah, right.
And his number after his first child went down to a very paltry 10,000. A very paltry 10. Like there's a lot of things I'll do for my daughters, but a 10,000, I just don't.
Yeah, I would think the second child you could get a better deal on than the first. Like, it's like, we've already been around the block here. All right, well, that's exciting news for Mikey. We'll be looking forward to keeping everybody posted on the podcast. Now, Frank, do your part here, if you will, please. You know what to do. You got to tell everybody about the Amazon banner on the front of phoneboothfighting.com. We kind of already did, but it bears repeating.
Yeah, no, hey, really easy way to help us out here at the show, besides telling a friend or leaving a review, is also to click on our phone booth fighting. There'll be an Amazon banner. By clicking on that, it transports you to Amazon. And any of the shopping you do at that point for any of your wants and needs, a small percentage comes back here at the show at no extra cost to you.
That's right. And also tell them how to follow us on social media.
Facebook and Instagram, it's Phone Booth Fighting. And if you want to follow us on Snapchat and Twitter, it's just Phone Booth Fight.
Yep. Subscribe to our YouTube page as well. All the video episodes go up there on the Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel that we tape here inside the Bent Pixel studios like this one. What about you, Austin? You want to mention where people can find you?
Not particularly.
Okay. All right. Are you going to be wrestling anywhere anytime soon?
Yeah, I got MLW pay-per-view coming up this Saturday.
Okay. Where's that going
In
to be?
Chicago. You
great
can see
wrestling
it, I
town.
believe, on Fight TV.
Good.
Okay,
And
cool.
I'll be taking on Teddy Hart for the middleweight championship. So,
Okay.
yeah.
There you
can
go.
tell I'm really excited about that, guys.
Championship on the line.
I feel I've been training a little bit here with Frank and Mel, so I'm
Yeah,
feeling
he's been doing the
very,
workouts with Mel. With
very
us.
svelte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, as it turns
No,
out,
I actually had to thank him a couple times because first I had James in there, but then James got injured.
Yeah.
And then when Austin came in, I was like, one day we had a hellacious workout.
Oh yeah.
It was just fucking awful. At one point, we're doing single arm planks to hold, and you like doing a one arm push up, but you're supposed to put your other. I can't do it with this arm, but imagine this arm's on the ground doing a push up, and this arm's holding up.
yeah.
And you can't, usually if you do a one arm push up, you canter your body, but you want it completely flat, hold it for 15 seconds, then get up and throw a medicine ball against the wall 15 times. It was just awful.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was at the end of a 2-hour workout of throwing things and pressing things and pulling things.
After we were probably at Syndicate.
Yeah, and we did Syndicate at 11:30 first, and I think we're dumbasses were working out Lifetime before that. So I mean, it's god awful, and I sit there and I looked over at him. I'm like, hey man, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it does make it easier that I'm going through hell right now, but I look over and someone else is going to hell with me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Comfort
you know
in
what?
your misery.
misery enjoys company, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Even when Austin and I were able to spar a couple times for my fight, turns out that pro wrestlers make great sparring partners, because the thing is even though you're new to some of this, you're pesky. Like, he knows how to get on top of you and stay there and
Have
hold
you got
you
to
down.
watch Austin wrestle yet?
Oh yeah, no, he's fantastic.
No, I know, but I know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's his athleticism, his
Oh, yeah.
movement. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean, that's why when Princey can come out here more, we can get him to fight, because I mean that
Yeah.
guy can. I mean, even when he screws around, dancing, moving, like I watch him, like you're really athletic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's in the terms of gritty. If you're under 5'10", you're gritty.
Gritty.
I'm
That's
gritty.
fair.
Yeah.
All right, and Princey, you want to tell people where they can spot you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Carl Prinstagram. We're just on the verge of opening our own gym in England, Great Britain top team with Brad Pickett. So that's
excellent.
about to come in the next 2 weeks, and fly out back to England today and off to Spain on Sunday for the next fight camp with a gentleman called Luke Barnett, who fights,
Yes.
awkwardly so for me, Frank's main training partner from Syndicate in 4 weeks' time in
Hendricks.
Oh yeah.
in Kazakhstan. So I get to.
That's a shitty situation. I hate that, because I'm really good friends with Luke.
Yeah.
Luke's a great guy. We do commentary and stuff together, ACB and stuff, and we trained. And then Corey's an awesome guy too, man.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
I've called his fights. I train with him. You know, he's the kind of guy that, like, you know, Corey fights nothing like Roy. You know, and 2 weeks before the fight, he's getting punched in the face by doing the things that Roy does, even though he knows how to defend it. But he put himself, you know, Tom Lawler did a good job of that too.
Yeah.
Who else really helped?
Yeah, we had
John Wood was great. I mean, and Wood is one of my coaches too. I don't give him enough talk as much as I should credit, but over there at Syndicate, Wood is really good, man. Well-rounded guy and
a great mat now. Like from 12 months ago, like the mat, and it's a real solid team, Syndicate, because Vegas is always a destination venue, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are coming in and going and all that, but he's got like a good nucleus of a tight team now, and he's adding value and good people to it throughout. So it was a real good training environment, and big thanks to John Wooden for everybody opening the doors.
Strickland came in the last.
Yeah, Sean Strickland. They got like a bit of a Canadian revolution now, so like Marc-Andre Barriot and all these guys are out there and giving Frank good work. And
You know, you talk about fighting friends. What's funny about that is, like, my buddy that I fought and went to Warrior, because Frank told him, he's like, hey, you know, I think you could actually, you know, have a little amateur career if you want to. I told him, I'm like, listen, you don't understand. I want you to be the champion of the world now. Like, I need that will make this loss look better. I need a story to tell.
All fighters, most fighters I talk to, myself included, if you lose to somebody, you root for them. Because you're like, makes my loss a little bit better if he goes and fucking kicks someone else's ass. The worst thing is if someone kicks your ass and they go and they get their ass kicked, you're like, shit.
That's two people who beat me.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, that's the worst kind of math. All right, for Frank Mir and all of our distinguished guests today, it's been a good one. It's been a long one, and we're back to form here in the Pent Pixel Studios. So thanks for being along with us for this one. I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.